Okay, we would like to welcome everybody. It's now 7 o'clock, and today is July 16th, 2019, and we'd like to welcome you to our July board meeting. It's good to see all these nice faces on such a hot evening, and I think a lot of people in Lexington are on vacation, so we appreciate y'all taking the time to come join us tonight. Do I hear a motion to adjourn executive session and begin open session?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries, and it is unanimous. I would like to call to order the general session. I would like to notify you that we are in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act and that we have notified the media of the date, time, and place of this meeting. And we want to notify you that the district does tape this meeting for accuracy in preparing our minutes. I'd like to call on Ms. Garris for our invocation. Ms. Garris?
Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight as we make decisions for our community. We ask for your blessings in all we do, and we ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it's full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Help us make decisions that promote the common good and recognize our responsibility to the needs of those we are entrusted to serve. Guide our hearts and minds to accomplish the tasks set before us. We pray that our thoughts and actions would be pleasing to you. We ask that you do all of this. If it is your will, in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Garris. Ms. Hill, do we have any media present? Okay, thank you. Let's see, let me keep going. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented, board? Thank you, Ms. Green. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. Are there any questions or comments, board, regarding the agenda? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries, and it is unanimous. Board, in your packet, you have been provided copies of the minutes for the June 25th, 2019 regular board meeting. Other than the corrections that have already been provided and made, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of that meeting? Hearing none, we will accept the minutes as received. Board, we are now going to reports and action items from executive session. Do I hear a motion to approve 23 certified recommendations for the 2019-2020 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board accept the recommendations of Dr. Little of the 23 certified employee recommendations for the 2019-2020 school year.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Green. Are there any questions or comments, board? I'd like to ask one. Mr. Stacy, how many positions do we have yet to fill? 35. Okay, and are there any special needs that we're looking for that we need to get this audience out to help us? Okay. Great.
Yes, more language positions tied to our immersion programs, but primarily French is the big one.
Okay.
And some sped positions, but I think we'll work with it. We need 3 health science teachers, by the way, too. So
Okay, so if y'all know of anybody, tell them we're looking.
if they're interested in teaching, you can probably get them started.
Okay, great.
And then I know with unemployment at an all-time low, how are other districts faring as they work into the fall?
Well, as I heard last night on Channel 19, and I think they made some calls to Mary Beth today to try to get some confirmation on numbers around the district. Richmond 1 had reported that they have 100 vacancies at this moment. So I think we're in good shape if you compare us to other districts, but at the same time, we're not in good shape if we don't have our positions filled.
Okay.
We're working really hard now to try to finalize this.
Well, a big thank you to you and your staff and our principals for making this happen. So 35 is not too bad, and we still have a few weeks left, so thank you. Board, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of approving the 23 certified recommendations for 2019-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries, and it is unanimous. Board, do I hear a motion to approve 2 administrative recommendations for the 2019-2020 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board accept the 2 administrative employee recommendations of Dr. Little for the 2019-2020 school year.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Are there any questions or comments regarding those two positions?
So I'll ask a similar question. After these two positions, do we have any additional administrative positions to fill?
Great.
Well, good. Well, hopefully that'll make it easier to find teachers, right? So,
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Board, you've heard the motion. All in favor of the two administrative recommendations as submitted by the, for 2019-2020 school year by Human Resources, please say aye.
aye.
Any, well, I'll do something different there. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries, and it is unanimous. Board members, do I hear a motion regarding the property contractual arrangement for the purchase of land for a new White Knoll area elementary school? Let's go ahead and get a motion and a second on the floor, and then we'll open it up for discussion, because I know we're going to have a good bit of discussion on this. So do I have a motion regarding the White Knoll area elementary school?
Madam Chair, I move the board authorize the administration's request to amend the option agreement approved at the December 12, 2018 board meeting related to the parcel known by Lexington County as TMS number 007600-02-046. Administration recommends adding Exhibit B, which establishes a purchase price of $350,000 to the option agreement. This is approximately $10,000 per acre. The approximate 35-acre parcel owned by Linda K. Mack and Jimmy R. Schumpert is intended as a location for a new White Knoll area elementary school.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. So, Board, let's go ahead and open it up for discussion, and then we'll take a vote after we've discussed it and heard some more facts and figures on it. So, Mr. Salters, you want to start and tell us what this is about?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is a parcel that we have discussed, and you actually have acted on to enter an option agreement at a previous board meeting. I have on the screen here our county GIS map tool that we use. It's a very excellent tool that our county provides, and if folks are familiar with it, it really helps you when you're looking at property around our county. So this is the parcel that we are looking at. It's an approximately 35-acre parcel of land. And just to kind of orient you, sometimes it makes you kind of sick if you look at the screen, but just to our north, we have right here is the big intersection at Platte Springs Road and Highway 6. So just this way would be White Knoll High School right here. And the Walmart and Lowe's complex and all that. There's a new Publix that's actually has been built right here on this corner. So we're just down the road from that in this area. And in our study, when we developed the facility study for the bond referendum and with our consultant Maloney McBroom, a large population growth expansion was slotted to occur in this area. And you may be familiar that we have an elementary school kind of to the north east, which would be Satsgatha Elementary School, and then one kind of to the northwest, which would be Carolina Springs Elementary. Both of those schools right now are at comfortable enrollment levels, and you can kind of see the beginnings of a major development that was planned a number of years ago and is really starting to take shape now. And this is the Bluefield development by the Mungo Company. All of this land here, this large vacant land area, will look like these little dots eventually. And so, as
What's the projected number of homes?
Roughly
in that
700 home sites. And as part of our growth plan, is called for a White Knoll area elementary school, and to accommodate this growth in this area. So this particular site is a site with good road frontage, and we have gone through this with in our option discussion previously, but it just reminds you that the site falls from the top corner here down to the lower corner here, which is Bluefield Road. Many of you may have gone and picked blueberries on Bluefield Road, and this is the blueberry patch that exists on that area. So that's a different tract of land. That's another landowner. We're focused in this area right here, and so we anticipate development on this site with a school up in this area of the site, with drive entrances on Highway 6 and Bluefield Road. Of course, in our due diligence process, we're working with SCDOT. We're in the process of conducting a traffic impact analysis to, determine the best ways to access the property. And that's all part of that due diligence process. Tonight, what we're asking for is simply to ratify a price between the district and the seller. This is a pretty rare situation in that this parcel of land was actually listed for sale. Many times in our circumstances with the unique land needs that we have, we don't find a piece of land that is listed for sale. We have to go out and seek land from different owners. And so this land was for sale by National Land Realty. It was listed for a price of $355,750. And we conducted 2 appraisals, one by an appraiser of our choice and one by an appraiser of the seller's choice. One appraisal came in at $350,000, and the second appraisal came in at $357,000. So with the tightness of those 2 numbers, we feel confident in those appraisal numbers. Of course, they're consistent with what the seller had the property listed at. So we negotiated or offered a price of $350,000, and the seller has agreed to sell the property for that amount of money. Works out to about $10,000 an acre. Some other considerations that you look at is utilities in the area. I would point out that we have commercial 3-phase power out here available to us on Highway 6. We've got water available to us, and we have sewer available to us as well. So all of those utilities are right here at the site, which makes it a lower cost impact for development of the property. So with that being said, we are recommending tonight that you amend the option agreement with Exhibit B and set the price at $350,000.
Board, are there any other questions or comments?
I'm sorry, you had it? About the yeah. So there was a question, I'm sorry, about the number of days in the option agreement. We have a 90-day window, and our attorney interprets that as business days versus calendar days. So we're well within that 90 business day option period to ratify the price. And so that's what I would offer to you this evening.
Thank you. And I think I had a question about, I know there's some water on this site. Will you walk us through that and let us see that?
Yes, ma'am. Let's see if I can get it to come on here. There are several, I'm going to turn on a couple of layers here just to show you. So there's a stream that runs adjacent to the Highway 6. I'm going to turn on a wetland layer because that is different than pond and stream buffer. You can see there's a small wetland here. And then you also have, with that stream, you have a buffer that you have to maintain for development. So this is pretty typical of land in the Lexington area. Most large tracts of land have some type of pond or stream or low area or wetland to work around. We don't anticipate any kind of issues with development related to this. It actually will help us with our stormwater management. There's already a natural watershed that we will be able to make use of.
And it's kind of a natural buffer, too, for the school.
It is. It does provide a natural buffer from the road so that you won't, typically you wouldn't develop in that area.
And show us again what the architects are thinking about the potential siting of the school.
In this particular case, because of the elevation change, it's likely the school will be sited in this area because this is the highest area of the campus. And so it would be facing out towards, probably out towards Bluefield, kind of out this way. And you'd have entrance drives that would, circle around. We have 2,000 minimum linear feet of stacking that we have to provide for student drop-off and so forth. So it would circle around in front of the campus. and then, you have a bus and service drive that would come in the backside of that as well. But all that's kind of subject to development depending on what DOT recommends as far as entrance and exit.
So, assuming no surprises, can you give us an idea, budgetary-wise, where, taking us to a pad-ready situation, where that's going to put us, taking into account no surprises?
Sure. I mean, I can tell you that this site will be probably similar to development over at Beechwood Middle School, similar footprint and acreage. And the thing that's, that I kind of hedge on would be the off-site road improvements.
Sure.
You don't really know what those are going to look like until DOT comes back and says this is what needs to happen. That could, average, on our developments anywhere from $1 million to $2 million. When you're looking at the proximity that we are to sewer, you're really probably only talking $500,000 to $750,000 to develop the sewer because we're so close to it. And it may be even less than that because our connections are probably, they're above where we would connect so we can gravity down into it. You don't have to provide a lift station, which is a cost. So that could be that is a favorable cost to us. And then water is readily available, so that's going to be a minimal connection cost, just our tap fee. So, within the $2 to $3 million range for those things, there's not a lot of large timber on the site, so we're not going to have a heavy clearing number. That can work against you too, though, because if there is a lot of timber, you could harvest that and get a credit. Actually, that's what we did at Beechwood. We started the building project with a credit because we harvested trees and were able to sell that timber. So, but really, when you look at it, it's not going to be as I'll say as clean as Centerville, just because Centerville's a flat site and we had a building pad in a month. But certainly, it's not a complicated site to develop or a costly site to develop.
But well within the
the overall budget of the school. The school is slated to open 2022, and in the building program, we had some inflation built in to the budgets. So that budget was $37 million, and that's kind of an all-in budget. And so it's well within that budget to build the building and to purchase the property.
and develop the property.
That's correct, sir.
And this is a prototype school. It's going to be similar to which schools?
So the first evolution of this prototype was at Rocky Creek. Then we went to Meadow Glen Elementary. Then we went to Deerfield, and now Centerville Elementary. And so we also have another school in the River Bluff attendance area that we're currently looking for land for. That will be also part of this same prototype design.
And I would consider that Bluefield neighborhood, I would call that a mega neighborhood. I mean, when you talk about when it's built out. And I know that is going to put a lot of cars, and that is a main thoroughfare. So I think one of the things that's advantageous about this is that neighborhood is just going to shoot straight across into the school. And those cars won't be going up and down the road at that point. I mean, now when they leave and they go to work, I'm not sure where they'll go, but those cars would be on the road. But I think that's a good site considering that mega neighborhood is going up across the street from it.
Yeah, it is in very close proximity. Just for clarification, they did realign Bluefield when they put the neighborhood in. So it does enter right here in the Bluefield driveway, or the road entrance is right here. So, I mean, it's not exactly straight across, but
yeah, but it's just
I know
right there.
your point. Yes, it is right there.
But staying with the traffic discussion, this school's kind of on the edge of our attendance area, right?
Yes, that is correct. If I'll just kind of zoom out a little bit, I'm going to turn that layer off. And so, interestingly enough, this kind of squiggly line that follows right here, and if I zoom way out, you can kind of get a better feel for it. But that line is actually, this line right through here is actually our attendance boundary between Lexington 2 over here and Lexington 1 here. And you can kind of see the empty land. And then we've got Saxagatha just right up here, Carolina Springs just right up here. And so we've got a huge amount of students to serve and very limited selection of property. So we're really fortunate to be able to secure a tract in the area. When Malone and McBroom did their study, they kind of did a circle around the area where we would need a school, and this spot is basically right in the middle of that circle. So we're very fortunate with that.
And I was doing a little bit of research, and I understand that county council just bought 3.9 acres to build a fire station, and they paid $158,000 for their piece.
Per acre or per?
Per acre.
Oh, wow.
Per acre. And tell me again, remind me again what you negotiated on this one?
10,000 an
Okay,
acre.
thank you, Mr. Salters. Any other questions or comments, board? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go back and I'm going to have Dr. Powers reread the motion if you don't mind. 'Cause-
I would love to, Madam Chair. All right, Madam Chair, I move that the board authorize the administration's request to amend the option agreement approved at the December 12th, 2018 board meeting related to the parcel known by Lexington County as TMS 007600-02-046. Administration recommends adding Exhibit B, which establishes a purchase price of $350,000 to the option agreement. This is approximately $10,000 per acre. The approximate 35-acre parcel owned by Linda K. Mack and Jimmy R. Schumpert is intended as a location for a new White Knoll area elementary school.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. One quick question. That Mr. Schumpert is not related to former board member Frank Schumpert, is it?
Madam Chair, I've spoken with Frank Schumpert directly, and he is not related, to his knowledge, to Mr. Jimmy Schumpert
Okay, thank
or
you.
Ms. Linda K. Mack.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Salters. Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Dr. Powers. Mr. Anderson seconded it. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we have 6 ayes and 1 no.
Ms. Smith, I just want to add a little personal comment that was funny that you said to his knowledge. This is just a little personal story. My mother went to a 90th birthday party out in Pelion for a distant cousin about a month and a half ago, and she sent me a picture of her and one of our cousins that she met, and it's somebody that I've worked with in the PTO for about 9 years, and we did not know we were related. So it's Lexington County.
It
You
is
just never
Lexington County.
know.
That's a good story. So the motion carries. So Mr. Salters, continue, do the due diligence on that land and let us know what DOT says and bring that information back. And we truly appreciate you and your team making all those efforts for that. At this time, board, it is now a time for honors and achievements, and I'm going to ask Dr. Little to step down to the front. And we're going to get you guys out of here. So we'll recognize you. We've got a lot of good recognition tonight. We celebrate successes of many kinds during the honors and achievements portions of our monthly board meeting. We recognize the significant achievements of our students and employees, as well as the contributions of and partnerships with our business partners and community organizations. Tonight's honorees include national award winners, 2 prize-winning fiction writers, and several grant winners, just to name a few. We feature all of tonight's winners and honorees in our Proof Positive newsletter. That newsletter was on the sign-in table as you came in the door, and if you did not pick one up when you came in tonight, please do so on your way out, and feel free to take extra copies if Grandma or Grandpa wants to see a copy. Let's see, audience, you should know that we will they try to follow along in the newsletter, but sometimes they skip back and forth, so it may kind of move around a little bit. In addition, we ask that everyone stay until we finish recognizing all of tonight's award recipients, as each award winner deserves our undivided attention. And in order to accommodate our youngest honorees and their families, once we finish, we will give everyone a chance to make a quick escape, but you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you so desire. Dr. Little's already down front. So honorees, as I begin to call your names, will you go ahead and start making your way to the front up here with Dr. Little? And while you're walking, I will tell the audience all about you. How about that? So this first one is a great one. We're going to start with the Jefferson Award for Outstanding Students in Action. And nothing makes our hearts warmer than students receiving recognition for community service. Tonight, we present the officers from the Lexington High School Students in Action. So bear with me while I call these names, and I'm going to do my best. Some of them are a little hard, and if I butcher them, correct me, please. So Zendaya Bucknight, Evan Clark, Belle Kaufman, Taylor Dowling Bowman, Bradley Folks, Andrew Faust, Wyatt Hall, Jeffrey Hartung, Adam Kilman. She snuck up on you. Madison Catilla. Michael McMillan. Samantha Montgomery. Hannah Norris. Henny Patel. Cooper Reynolds. Mallory Rice. Julene Richardson. Taylor Spires. Rebecca Stoik, and Caleb Wadham. Lexington High School Students in Action Project Linking Lexington honored individuals fighting against cancer in our community. They educated the public about prevention and raised money to benefit cancer patients in their community. This Lexington High School team, are you ready for this? Raised $12,450 through a 4-part initiative. Students organized fundraisers such as Parents' Night Out as part of the National St. Baldrick's Foundation campaign. If you attended the Nature Chem Invitational Baseball Tournament, you saw the home run derby these students organized to raise money, which featured some special guests. It featured some of our local children undergoing cancer treatment. As a result, and I want you to hear this because this is so exciting, this team won the state-level Jefferson Award for Outstanding Students in Action, and they are going to Washington, D.C. Or have you already been? You've already been? They've already been, and they're back. So, but wait, it did not end there. While in D.C. and as part of the national competition, they presented their work at the National Jefferson Awards. That presentation and their hard work won their team a national-level Gold Award for Outstanding Students in Action. We salute this Lexington High School team for rallying our community around our cancer patients and our families. And if I can take a point of privilege, today Dr. Little shared your video with the board, and I would like to ask Ms. Layton, who does our minutes, if you will put a link in our minutes, because guys, that made me cry. What y'all did was fantastic, and that video is just awesome. So we're just really proud of you. Let's recognize these students. Aw. I know. I know. Now we're going to move over to another wonderful student organization, the Future Farmers of America, for our next award. Would Pillion High's Ryan Rucker come forward? Is Ryan here? He might be on vacation. Ryan received the South Carolina Future Farmers of America State Star Agricultural Placement Award, one of the highest honors presented by the South Carolina FFA Association. This award commends students for their outstanding agricultural work, experience, and leadership. During his internship at Rucker Farms in Pillion, Ryan worked more than 4,500 hours and earned $50,000. He also ventured into entrepreneurship by growing and harvesting 75 acres of oats. Ryan, congratulations on your success. Wow. In this first year of the Gubby Writing Awards, a writing contest sponsored by the South Carolina Governor's School for the Arts and Humanities, 2 of our students took top prizes. Pleasant Hill Middle's Olivia Bussell and White Knoll High's Autumn Simpson each earned a George Singleton Prize in Fiction. Olivia won the middle school division with her short story depicting what it means to feel limitless. A rising 8th grader, she performs in musical theater and plays first base for her travel softball team. Wow, she's a woman of many talents. Autumn, winner of the high school division, wrote about the author for her short story. A rising senior, she stays active in her school's improv troupe and commands White Knoll's Navy JROTC unit. Wow. I cannot wait to read your winning fiction, and congratulations, ladies, for being so well-rounded. That's wonderful. I think Dr. Little was just at an all-weekend softball tournament at some, so he's all into that softball world. A River Bluff High student recently won her third straight state honor. Is Kathleen Beardsley here with us? There she is. The South Carolina High School Bass Challenge named Kathleen their Lady Angler of the Year for the third year in a row. Congratulations, Kathleen. She won the award by tallying the most points of any female angler this season. Kathleen joined River Bluff's bass fishing team when it began 3 years ago after discovering a passion for fishing while taking outdoor education classes at Meadow Glen Middle. That passion and her success already caught the attention of college recruiters. So congratulations, Kathleen. That's wonderful. Let's give her a round of applause. Six Lexington Technology Center students won medals at the Skillsusa National Leadership and Skills Conference. Earlier this year, we recognized these students after they won first place at the state level. National medalists include Gilbert High's Nathan Brady. Is Nathan here? Lexington High's Sophie Lewis, Taylor Matthias, and Briar Pope. Oh, come on up. And White Knoll High's Cameron Drake and Jaden Young. Jaden Young won gold for Marine Service Technology, a contest focusing on troubleshooting, diagnostics, and repair of various styles of marine motors. Lexington Technology Center's building construction team, made up of Nathan Brady, Cameron Drake, Taylor Matthias, and Briar Pope, took silver at the national level for the second year in a row. In the Teamworks category, they completed a full-scale construction project demonstrating their ability to work together as a team and follow a detailed plan. Competing in welding sculpture, Sophie Lewis won bronze not only by designing and producing a welded sculpture, but also by detailing for the national judges exactly how she created the piece. Great work, everyone. That's wonderful.
Do you know how many overall that they're competing against? Because it's a whole bunch. At Skillsusa, there are probably about 30,000 students.
Wow, congratulations. Okay. Well,
It's really amazing stuff. And sometimes I don't know if what we talk about in here really captures what they do. I mean, this is really an amazing accomplishment. So great job you and your staff and to the students. That's absolutely fantastic. Y'all keep up the good work.
and I think the best thing, they get job skills. They're very marketable. Moving to staff recognitions, we begin with employees receiving grant funding for various projects. Through the online giving platform DonorsChoose.org, educators post requests for specific classroom needs such as books, technology, and other supplies. Tonight's educators with fully funded projects include Deerfield Elementary's Pamela Hutchinson, is she here? Bethany Pato, and Alice Wilson, as well as Saxagatha Elementary's Haley Bolches. Online donors helped our teachers purchase fiction and nonfiction books, magnetic counting frames to help students visualize numbers, supplies for a bookmaking project, and technology for the classroom. Let's congratulate them. Midway Elementary fifth grade French immersion teacher, Dr. Katrinda Scott, won a $2,000 French dual language fund grant from the French American Cultural Exchange Foundation. With the goal of helping students meet proficiency standards, Dr. Scott plans to use her grant funding to purchase a French language leveled book series for her Improving Reading Comprehension in French Immersion Students project. She believes the additional literacy materials will increase their fluency, accuracy, and decoding skills while reading. So congratulations, Dr. Scott. She is in France. She's in France right now, so she couldn't be here tonight. Yeah. I don't know. Would Lexington Technology Center machine tool instructor Gray Biedenbow come forward? There he is. Mr. Biedenbow received a $16,000 grant from the Gene Haas Foundation, which he plans to use to purchase toolkits for students to use at Lexington Technology Center and then take to post-secondary school. The grant also provides scholarships for students who want to earn a job-ready credential, compete at Skillsusa, or enroll in an engineering program at the post-secondary level. Thank you, Mr. Biedenbow. That's wonderful.
Gray, I want to publicly apologize here. There was a time where me and Gray used to play pickup football at Lexington High School, and he may or may not have broken his collarbone, and I may or may not have been involved in that tackle. And so I just want to publicly apologize for that. I never got a chance to because you were taken off in an ambulance. So publicly apologize.
Pelion Middle Science teacher Shannon Waits welcomed a new student to her 6th grade class last year thanks to grant funding. Miss Waits won a Pets in the Classroom grant from the national retailer Petco. That grant enabled her to purchase a guinea pig named after Miss Waits' favorite Harry Potter character, Nymphadora Tonks. This furry classmate engages students and helps with real-life learning across content areas. Why Tonks even boasts her own Instagram page. There she is right there. Thank you, Petco. Let's give that a round of applause. He's a regular now, so I'm going to call up Dr. George Wham. Will you come on up? Dr. Wham led Pelion High's athletic training program for 21 years before joining River Bluff for the upcoming school year. The National Athletic Trainers Association recently named him a Most Distinguished Athletic Trainer. He is only the 3rd athletic trainer from South Carolina to receive this recognition, which recognizes athletic trainers who have demonstrated exceptional commitment to leadership, volunteer service, advocacy, and distinguished professional activities as an athletic trainer. Dr. Wham also won District 3 Gatorade Secondary School Athletic Trainer of the Year, in addition to another Most Distinguished Athletic Trainer recognition from the Mid-Atlantic Athletic Trainers Association. Under Dr. Wham's leadership, Pelion High earned its 2nd Safe Sports School recognition in 2018. Pelion High led the way in high school safety, first in 2001 as the first athletics department in the state to implement an AED as part of their emergency action plan, and later in 2008 as the first athletics department in the state to begin using impact testing concussion protocol for high school athletes. We thank Dr. Wham for his efforts to ensure our students' health and safety on the field. Let's give him a big round of applause. We conclude tonight by recognizing Laurie Held and Lindsay Mitchell in our communications office. They both won several state awards from the South Carolina chapter of the National School Public Relations Association. Would graphic designer Laurie Held join Dr. Little? Social media and web content manager Lindsay Mitchell could not be with us here tonight. Ms. Hell won 3 rewards for Excellent School Awards from the South Carolina chapter of the National School Public Relations Association. She won rewards for Excellent Awards in the Handbook category for the 2018-2019 Lexington County School District 1 Employee Handbook. She also won for the 2018-2019 Lexington County School District 1 Personal Mobile Computing Guide. She also won a Rewards for Excellence Award in the Special Purpose Publication category for Lexington County School District 1's The State's Best Advertisement. Ms. Mitchell, on the other hand, not only won a Rewards for Excellence Award in the Social Media category for the 2018-2019 Back to School Social Media Campaign, but she also took Best in Show for that same media campaign. The communication staff does so much great work for this district, and they often go unrecognized. Although we all use the publications and projects they produce, we do not always know who is behind the curtain. So tonight, we'd like to recognize Laurie and Miss Mitchell and thank them for all of their creative work. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight, especially in this July month, and we are going to give you a chance to scoot out, and congratulations everyone on all these awards. If you'll step out to the left and go into the main lobby, you can pick up your certificate. Thank you. See you later. Okay, we'll continue on. It is now time for 9.0, which is citizens participation. And the Lexington County School District 1 Board of Trustees provides a time for citizens participation at each regular board meeting. I do not have any cards, and unless someone wants to speak, I'm not going to read. Are you speaking? Okay, so if you'll bring me your card, please. Yeah, well, she is coming. Okay. Thank you, Lori. Anyone else want to speak with us? Okay, we'll get the podium ready, so wait just a minute. Okay, first, in order to speak, you must be a parent or legal guardian of a student in Lexington County School District 1 or a resident and taxpayer of the district. Second, each speaker has 3 minutes. Third, you may comment on an agenda item, school operations, programs, policies, or other matters of concerns. However, you may not speak about specific individuals, whether students or staff. There are other ways to bring situations like that to the board's attention. We want to give everyone a chance to speak tonight, so for that reason, board members will not reply to individual remarks. And if someone makes the point or points you came to make, we'll skip that. We also ask that you not clap or make any comments either while an individual is speaking or after a speaker finishes, as that slows down the process considerably. Did anyone else want to speak besides Ms. Frieda? Okay.
Can I just start?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, I can't, I didn't know.
Thank you. Okay. We'd like to recognize Jennifer Frieda. She is here tonight to talk about the tobacco-free school policies. She lives at 324 Glen Cove Court, and she has children at River Bluff High School. So, Ms. Frieda, go ahead.
Good evening. I hate this microphone, but I know you're going to tell me I have to use it. I'd like to take this opportunity to discuss some concerns I have about the 3 policies surrounding tobacco-free schools. All 3 policies state, including but not limited to. Therefore, I believe the reality is these consequences may or may not be what is followed in the schools when such violations occur. I wanted to know what happens, for instance, if my daughter got caught by a staff member in the bathroom juuling in school. So I understand she gets brought down to the main office and sits in front of an administrator, but then what happens? What does the situation look like, and what steps can I expect to be followed? Is it the policy, GBED, or in the student handbook on page 51? It states, students who violate policy GBED, tobacco-free workplace, will be subject to disciplinary action in accordance with the district's student code of conduct policy and administrative rule, JICDA-R, which they do state confiscation of items, out-of-school suspension, up to 3 days out-of-school suspension, and mandatory tobacco addiction counseling after the second violation. The handbook does not list suspension from extracurricular activities, which I feel may be the best deterrent and only consequence a teenager might care about at this time of their age. The handbook also says the administrator will notify the student's parent or guardian instead of having a conference, as these policies tonight state. I would like you to consider removing the word mandatory in enrollment in a tobacco prevention or cessation program after the second offense. Making such a program mandatory, in my opinion, is assuming the student is physically addicted to nicotine. Not only are there many other reasons students are vaping and or smoking or have these items in their possession, I feel it's a parental decision, not a school decision, to make it mandatory. Available, I think, is great, but mandatory is another thing. Also, in the policy JICDA-R and the student handbook, it says mandatory enrollment in tobacco addiction counseling, versus the policies say tobacco prevention, education, or cessation program. So I don't know why there's a discrepancy there. Along those same lines, mandatory enrollment is under staff as well, and I believe this is up to the individual person to decide rather than the employer. I would also like you to consider the removal of the second bullet under visitors, volunteers, or members of the public. It says termination from volunteer positions. I believe the fourth bullet point covers that for someone that is consistently making a choice to violate district policy. Lastly, all the policies in the world don't make a difference unless the teachers and staff are trained properly, and I don't know if this is being done. As far as the vaping and the nicotine products, there's new things all the time, so I'm hoping that they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frida. Okay. Now we're going to call up Sherry Risch. She is going to discuss the new White Knoll land purchase that we're looking at. And she lives at 372 Bama Road in Gilbert, and I believe your daughter is at Gilbert High. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Risch.
My only questions were, when, Mr. Salters, when you were showing the land on the screen, you briefly noted that there's a drop-off, right, from the top of the, like, almost cuts the property in half almost in elevation. And the school would be kind of in the top. My two questions are, how much of a drop-off are we talking there? And if it's a major drop-off, how much is it going to cost to backfill the property? Just wondering. And I guess you're not allowed to answer me now, but.
No, we can go ahead and answer you.
Yeah, okay, cool.
It's not that much of a drop-off. All of the board members have been by and seen the land. Have you been over there?
I'm from there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think it would be better.
Mr. Salters?
Let Mr. Salters reach out to her.
Okay, we'll have him call you tomorrow because we've got your cell phone.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good piece of land. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Salters, I have Ms. Risch's cell phone number, so if you want to, I can provide that for you tomorrow. Okay, anyone else wish to address the board? Okay, we will move on. We will now move on to our action items. Let's see if I can get this up. The first one is authorization of the superintendent as the official Title I representative. Let's go ahead and get the motion and the second on the floor, and then we'll turn to Ms. Talley and get an update on that. Do I hear a motion to authorize the superintendent as the official Title I representative?
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent as its Title I representative. This will give the superintendent the authorization to make day-to-day Title I decisions on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oswald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. Okay, now at this point, we'll turn it over to Dr. Talley and let her walk us through this, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is a routine item I bring forward every year about this time to the board for you to vote to make the superintendent, to give him the authority to act in your stead for Title I funding or anything dealing with Title I. Just for your information, we do now have 9 Title I schools in our district. This year's projected allocation for those funds is total $3,590,266. Again, that's an allocation. That's an increase of $184,436 from last year's allocation. You may wonder how we determine that amount. It's not determined by the district, but the state determines that, and they use a formula. That formula is based on the poverty index, which includes free or reduced lunch, and also the average daily membership on the 135th day of school. There is a threshold of 50% free and reduced lunch. Again, the state sets that threshold. Districts can choose 2 options when they distribute Title I funding. One option is to give every school that's designated a Title I school in your district the same amount of funding. The other option is to distribute the funding based on needs of that school. Lexington 1 elects to use the latter option. And I thought you might be interested in seeing the way we distribute that funding. So the school that gets the most allocation in our district is Forts Pond Elementary School. Next is Pillion Elementary School. Pillion Middle School is next, and by the way, Pillion Middle School is our only middle school. That's a Title I school. Next is Saxe-Gotha Elementary. Next is Red Bank Elementary. Next is Gilbert Primary School. Next is Gilbert Elementary. Our newest Title I school is White Knoll Elementary School. And then the last in that descending order for receiving distribution is Oak Grove Elementary School. I'm real proud of, we had a retirement this year of our coordinator for Title I, Ms. Johnny Boatwright retired, and she'd done that job for a long time and really was an expert in the area of Title I funding. It's a complex job, and you can get in big trouble if you don't monitor and watch the way we spend those funds. I'm thrilled that her replacement is someone we promoted from within, Jessica Bazard, and she has really hit the ground running. She had her first state orientation meeting last week, and she's just doing a great job. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Board, any questions?
I guess with 9 schools and most of them being elementary, just the back of envelope math on a per student basis, it's around $600 per student, or
something like that. That's
okay.
right. Yeah.
And the base student cost is whatever it is. It's $2,600 or something like that. So it's about a 25% uplift on a student base. Okay.
Right, and so in the Title I world, there's a word we toss around a lot. It's called supplanting. And what that means is what the district pays for all schools, you can't not do that for Title I schools, even though they get additional funding,
right,
or you would be supplanting. So the funding, this federal funding that they receive is above and beyond the base student cost.
And then we use that money for additional counselors and reading coaches, and then
we use it for a myriad of things, depending on the needs. We use it for teacher training.
Okay.
We use it for supplies, additional supplies. Some schools elect to use it for personnel, additional personnel.
Okay.
If I may, we have really found that the secret sauce in this, the magic in our Title I schools, Red Bank Elementary is a good example, is that they really try to use it for personnel to create these opportunities for kids to interact in smaller groups, those kinds of things. And it works really well, I think. And you have, I mean, there's a number of things you can do, technology and other supplies, but you know, I really think the the secret sauce that we've got, again, is that small group plus a really high-quality teacher in front of a group.
Dr. Talley, just so I understand, just as far as from the funding part of it, so these are federal dollars that are allocated to the state, and then the state figures out how to allocate them to the districts, is that correct? I mean, it flows through the state to the districts.
That's correct. The state uses a formula. It's a prescribed formula. And then the funds are directed to the district, and the district is accountable for the expenditure of those funds, and we're audited every year. So it's a real close scrutiny of those funds.
Is the formula that the state uses, is that a formula that the federal government tells them?
It is.
It prescribes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions, board? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of naming Dr. Little as our representative for Title I, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries, and it is unanimous. We have now authorized you to have that money, Dr. Little. Okay, I'm going to do something a little different. On 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4 are all regarding the new tobacco-free policies. This has been mandated, I believe, by the state, and we have to have a policy in place by August 1st in order for us to be in compliance. Normally, we'd go ahead and do a reading and do a motion and all that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open with Mr. Caldwell, get him to walk us through the three policies. One is regarding tobacco-free school districts, one is tobacco-free workplaces, and the third is tobacco use by students. I'm going to get Mr. Caldwell to kind of tee us off, and then we'll handle the policies on the backside. So,
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Caldwell.
Chair, members of the board. All three policies, you remember from last month, while they deal with the district, the workplace, and students, the language is actually the same. At the heart of the policy, our procedures and our requirements really didn't change from our previous policy. The Tobacco Access to Students Act was amended, which brought along the need for updated policies. Our school board, we always follow the School Boards Association's model policies. So while we didn't really change the meat of it, so to speak, it does add some more specific language about visitors and things like that. So from first reading, we had struck the, to Ms. Frieda's point, we had struck the suspension from extracurricular activities after speaking with her, or actually texting back and forth, or emailing. And more consideration, we actually added that back in. I will say that a suspension from school by policy JKD automatically eliminates a student from extracurricular activities. However, we felt this was important enough that we would add that back in. Even if it weren't in, a student who was suspended from school is not allowed to participate in extracurricular activities, but we did add that back in. And that was the only change that we made from first to second reading.
And kind of update us on why this policy is moved to the front, and I mean, why it's become so, in fact, I saw on the e-clippings today that I think every board in the state is voting this week on this policy.
Well, there's
and
one word.
Why the state's so interested in
That
it.
one word's vaping. Dr. Guyton was sharing some data with me just right before the board meeting, and of all this, there were 300,000 students or something that were surveyed, and the number one reason students claim to use vaping is because a parent did it or someone they did do. The second reason was because it tasted good. It was, so they may say they're not marketing towards the young people. That's simply not true. And that particular reason outweighed all the other reasons by a mile. Vaping has become the end thing to do, and it has inherent dangers that I don't think our students recognize. I don't think that some of our parents recognize. So while our previous policy, the current policy that we have addressed vaping, or alternative nicotine delivery systems, as we called it, this one does too, and I think probably the reason it was updated was to be sure that all the districts had that language. And while we did have it already, we've updated it with the language as recommended by the School Board Association.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Caldwell. It's kind of interesting today. We're starting, our board, we get information from across the nation on different things that are going on in the nation. And today, the DARE program emailed us and said that vaping nicotine doubled from 11% in 2017 on high school seniors to 20.9% in 2018. And it's just an epidemic. So, and I hope everybody saw in the news this week that the CEO of Juul said he is sorry. He said he did not mean for teenagers to pick this up, but he's sorry all the way to the
Well,
bank,
they
I
did.
think.
And they picked
He
it up a
was
lot.
not, no, Dr. M is in the back, and I'm looking at her, who does a lot of our work with this, with our drug task force. And I think she would agree, if he's that sorry, he would quit making products that taste like cotton candy and those types of things.
And building a plan in our backyard.
And so some of that rings, you know,
Oh, I know.
I didn't mean to, but we made it taste like cotton candy so kids would like it.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting last month at our meeting that we were almost simultaneously with us discussing the first reading of this policy. County Council was voting to give tax incentives for the construction of that plant. And the idea is that job creation doesn't create nicotine use. But there's definitely an endorsement of at least the product through the tax incentives. I was going to try and address some of the questions that Ms. Frieda had, just so
Yeah.
we do that.
Yeah.
But I'm using Dr. Little's handwriting, so we'll see if I get it right. On the question about the consequences that are including but not limited to, is that up to the administrator's discretion? Is there a step-by-step procedure?
There is our step-by-step procedure, and that's why some of the suggested consequences or recommended consequences from the School Board Association were stricken to begin with. We have held fast, and the other policy that Ms. Frieda addressed, I think it's JICD-R, addresses this also. The first offense is a one-day suspension. The second and subsequent offenses are up to 3 days. And so that's been our consistent enforcement of that, and so that's why we elected to keep those as the consequences. And then we added back the extracurricular suspension, which would have happened anyway.
And the mandatory enrollment in the prevention program, is that something that we verify? I mean, do they have to provide documentation that if it's a mandatory enrollment, is that something that we do require and
Yes, in fact,
implement?
it's happening now. And what this policy has done, fortunately, has brought this back to the forefront. And I met with Loretta just today to talk about the Cessation Program and what that looks like. And it's a Saturday, usually offered on a Saturday. Again, it would be required, and we have a social worker who would keep us updated on the students who are enrolled and the students who chose not to, and then there would be subsequent consequences that, to be quite frank with you, we haven't worked out yet as what that would be if they chose not to participate.
And what's been your experience of kids who've gone through that education program with their willingness to re-engage a tobacco product?
I have anecdotal data. I don't have numbers of repeat offenders, but I've not received any negative communications from any parents or students about that component. I will add this: it is against the law if you're under 18. So law enforcement actually gives a student a citation. It's a $25 fine, basically. We found out recently through this research that when those students go to court, the judge, we are told, in most cases, maybe not 100%, orders the student to the cessation program on the first offense. So we are not taking that step, and if they do that, if they're ordered on the first offense and then they've gone through it and there's a second offense, we'd have to navigate that, but we're not. But again, we found out today that the judge, judges are doing that. In fact, it's kind of overwhelmed Loretta with offering those services.
Well, I mean, we're getting ready this Thursday at the hospital for a total joint survey to be certified as a total joint replacement center. And part of what the elements that are important is each patient before hip or knee replacement goes through a total joint education class, because we believe the outcomes will be better for those patients if they go through a pre-op education class. And we've seen that. So again, I can't speak to children's psychology, but my guess is with some element of education, people tend to make better decisions.
Well, and another thing we did to take it a step further to not always be punitive in nature. We've tried to become more therapeutic in our approach to student discipline. One concern that I had, one concern that our team had was, what if a student really has a severe addiction to tobacco? And it's not just they've tried it for the second time, they've been unfortunate enough to get caught a second time, and they go through this mandatory afternoon or day-long Saturday session. And again, talk with our friends at Loredac, and there is more intensive counseling available for tobacco addiction. I don't know that, I don't suspect many students would come forward and claim that, but they may. We may have adults that do the same thing. So even if it's their first offense, but they really say, I've got a huge problem and I can't put this down, I don't know what to do, then we want to be able to offer some support for that through counseling or whatever that they may need.
I typically don't ask questions of audience members, especially guests, but I do have a question for Dr. M. What's the difference in a cigarette nicotine versus a Juul nicotine? Can you give us that stat very quickly? So you mean like how they're made? No, like the
Potency.
the potency of the cigarette, the nicotine in the cigarette versus the nicotine in the Juul. Can you give that to us?
Mhm.
So it's a pack. One pod is equivalent to a pack of cigarettes.
So let's talk about some numbers. E-cigarettes entered the U.S. marketplace 2007. From 2011 to 2015, it increased 900%.
Wow.
So imagine that's your 401k going up 900%. That's the 401k of the manufacturers of e-cigarettes. 1 in 5 high school students, 1 in 20 middle school students currently use e-cigarettes. So there's your 20% and your 5%. In 2016, 1/3 of U.S. middle and high school students who ever used e-cigarettes had used marijuana in e-cigarettes. So that's 33% of those who have used a Juul pod or similar device have also used it in the form of THC or marijuana. Teenagers are good for business.
Yeah.
For these e-cigarette companies, point blank. This was the Surgeon General's advisory warning, by the way. This was not, this was not just offhand data. This came from the Surgeon General. I think a couple things. I agree we have to have a policy. We have to have a policy in compliance with an August 1 termination date, if you will. I think this is a stepping stone.
I agree.
And I think that's simply what this policy is. I think we need to dive into it further. So I would offer up that this is just an initial conversation. Because there's a lot of other things surrounding this that frankly, you've never taught through, we've never parented through. And so we don't really, and I've never cared through as a pediatrician. So there's a lot of questions to still answer. Secondly, I think anytime you're dealing with an epidemic, which this has been labeled, the more uniformity you can have, the better off you are. So I think the more we can pare this down to a uniform, you do this happens, so on and so forth, I think that takes the stress off the school, the administrators. Thirdly, I think parents need to become indignant about this. You should be angered. 41% of students cited they're available in flavors such as mint, candy, fruit, or chocolate. Why would you make a chocolate cigarette? I don't know many adults that like chocolate cigarettes. This can't be just a school board problem, it can't be just an administrator problem, it can't be a teacher problem, it also has to be a home problem, and we have to become indignant about it. And I think lastly, I think this ties in well with the Project Hope. I think this fits within the idea that we're not just punitive, that we are in the mode of healing. And so I think there has to be an educational piece to this. And sometimes that's as painful as the punishment, quite frankly. But when you're staring at a number of 33%, if you don't say this is a gateway to drug use, you're seriously mistaken. So I would say let's use this as a stepping stone, but it's going to take a lot more work.
Dr. Guyton, I completely agree with you that because of the time necessity for compliance, that we probably need to move ahead with this policy and then really dig deep into it. One of the questions that I actually had, Mr. Caldwell, because I did a lot of, I think several of us did a lot of research and read a lot of tobacco policies from school districts in a lot of different places. And one of the questions that came up, I know that when you walk into a school, in our schools, the doors have the little decal that says tobacco-free, and that's about it. And a lot of the policies I read dictated signage in the schools, warning signs, posters, really putting it out there that this is something that we disagree with and that we will be punished. And I wonder if we need to do a little bit more of that sort of PR and, because this policy outlines, like Ms. Frieda pointed out, consequences for campus visitors and volunteers. And just to say this is a tobacco-free workplace or tobacco-free campus is pretty passive. And I feel like we need to be a lot more aggressive in expressing our displeasure with that behavior. So.
Couldn't agree more. I met with Chris Ellisor last week. I think he received a grant, if I'm not mistaken, for some signage, and so we're updating the signage. It is more of a passive. It's not, please, if you don't mind, don't smoke. It is, no smoking, no vaping, that sort of thing. The conversation that we had today was that while most policies that pass just become a part of our policy manual, and we put them in our handbooks and put them online, and we're done. This may be one, to your point, that we send out information to all the parents to be specific about this policy, because this is just how important that is. So we would have a communication specific to this for our parents and students.
Well, I think one of the best things that our administration did last year was adding the suicide hotline to the back of the students' IDs. And I just wonder if we could do something like that with at least a small version of this policy, whether it's a report card insert or it's printed on the back of the report card covers, or something that we know the parents receive and that the students look at. I think anything that we can do. I'm always an advocate for, the one thing that parents are going to come to are student performances. Have an insert in the program of every chorus concert, every band concert, things that we know the parents and the students are going to be there. We've got a captive audience. They get there 30 minutes early to have a good seat. They're looking for something to do. They've read all the names in the program. You know what? Let's stick our some things in there about the dangers of vaping. I really think that that's an opportunity to get some of this information in front of parents that we would not otherwise get them to consume or read. So,
and not just parents, but make sure that we're covering this with staff, teachers,
That's right.
students. That first time you do it and you get called down to the principal's office and you're suspended, it's not a surprise. You already knew this well in advance.
So Mr. Caldwell is working with this as a team, just to provide some more context here. If I may, if I could offer to the board a couple things. Number one, I would like Mr. Caldwell to have a little bit more time to do a deep dive into this. I know he's been working on it. Could you give us an update in, say, October-ish?
Sure.
About because it is a complicated problem. I mean, we could do an update in August if you wanted to, but the truth is, I think we need some more time to
and I will
have
say
his group continue to work on this. I think that would be one. And then the other thing, this is gonna sound maybe a little counterintuitive, but if Jewel is gonna be our partner, if our neighbor, they're gonna be our neighbor, regardless of whether we like that or
Not
not.
our partner.
Okay, so they're moving to the neighborhood. Maybe one thing that I ask the board, perhaps I'll go and engage them in some conversations. Mr. Call and I will engage some conversations about how they can partner with our school district to help provide some funding to help pay for some of these answers to some of the challenges that they've had. So it's one thing to be sorry about it.
Yeah.
It's another thing to say, hey, let's put forth
Put your money where your jewel is.
some energy and effort, and let's see what they've got to say. Again, I'm from tobacco country, right? R.J. Reynolds and all that stuff up in that area. So I think it's important that if they're going to be our neighbor, perhaps they can be our partner too, because Dr. Guyton, again, I have Ms. Risch stepped up, talked about having a high schooler, and to be honest, I have a rising junior and a rising fourth grader, and this is only going to get worse before it gets better. And if you ever listen to Dr. M's presentations, you're going around your house and checking highlighters and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and hairspray bottles and everything else. And I think it's important that we continue to be on the front edge of this and work towards helping our students, because one of the things that I think most concerns me is that becoming addicted to nicotine almost becomes a lifelong habit forever. So you got a 17-year-old kid who's making the decision today that when they're 50 and 60 years old, they could still be engaging in that activity. And we don't know the long-term health impacts of superheating nicotine and ingesting it into our lungs. So, spoiler alert, my bet is that it's not good.
I bet so too.
So if those are two things, if those are next steps, I think
And to add to
beyond
that, it's
tonight,
not-
we will bring this back to the
Sure.
board and have further conversation.
And to add to the nicotine, it's not always nicotine that they're ingesting.
Exactly.
also.
And then it morphs into our drug policies.
That's right.
And I just wanted to add one more thing. After our conversation last month, I was told that there is pending legislation that carried over from last year to this coming session, year 2 of the session, to raise the tobacco purchase age to 21, which would include these products. That's not gonna, that's not like a magic bullet that's gonna solve the problem. However, we do have the situation where we have 18-year-olds that are still high school students. And so if we can at least move that,
And I think they're also looking at that at the federal level too.
yes, and so I
So that
think, if you want to contact your legislator and tell them that you support that, we tend to be a state that doesn't like a lot of extra rules, except for school districts. They do like rules for us. That would be great, because we need to raise that age.
And
I want to share one concern I had, and I talked about it at our last meeting. I do not like the headings of these policies. I bet if you ask the average middle schooler, vaping versus tobacco, they don't see that that's the same thing. I think they do not see vaping as tobacco. They see tobacco as that brown gooey stuff that's in a cigarette or in snuff or whatever.
Well, they've been conditioned to know that this is an alternative
Right.
to tobacco.
Right, and so I don't really like the title of this, because I think it needs to be, but Jeff and I, we talked and talked, I can't really come up with anything, nicotine device prevention, I don't know.
One suggestion, if it were called tobacco and nicotine-free workplace, tobacco and
Right.
nicotine-free schools,
Right.
was that something that would be at the,
I think that's a good thing, because that's what's in Jewel that's driving that. I mean, Dr. Guyton, you see it every day in your practice.
Yeah, again, the only sticky wicket there is if a part of the smoking cessation, if you have a student that's prescribed a nicotine patch or nicotine gum, they would basically have to have a physician order, a 504 plan in place, so on and so forth. And at that point, they would have a diagnosis of nicotine addiction. So that's the only problem you run.
really
Yeah, that's the
sticky.
problem you run into with nicotine-free, because
Right.
technically they are
It could be a
prescribed
medicine.
nicotine.
That's a good point.
And a lot of the policies that I looked at had pretty cumbersome titles, because I think people have tried to address this, and the one that I pulled and printed is It's just the use of tobacco and nicotine products and delivery devices.
Oh, that's a good one.
Rather than trying to make it a tobacco-free, nicotine-free. So that's just something to consider for when we revisit this, I think.
In anticipation of this conversation, from your conversation at the board meeting last month and the conversations we've had since then, I did prepare an amendment to the amended policy,
Okay.
and I can present that to you. It does not, the title, it changed the title and it changed some of the verbiage in that where it said tobacco-free. We
Okay.
changed it to read tobacco and nicotine-free.
Oh, I like that.
Mary Beth is,
The other thing, if anybody's interested, I did a lot of research on this, and the state of Missouri has put out some really, really good, almost what I would call white papers, and they keep addressing behavioral versus addiction. Because I think what happens when you are ingesting a whole pack's worth of nicotine in one pod, it doesn't take long to get addicted. And I think Dr. Little made a real good point. We were talking about, he said, I've never smoked, but when people learn to smoke, they have to train themselves to smoke. I think juuling from second one, it's easy, right? So there's no training, so they like it and get pretty going with it pretty fast. So it's just a lot. I do think we have to consider addiction versus behavioral. So
what
board.
I've handed, or Mary Beth's handed to you, I don't know addresses specifically what you're looking for, but it is a change of the titles of those to include the word nicotine, and then it talks about nicotine-free, which is counter to what Dr. Guyton was speaking about, but that's,
Okay.
so I have presented to you then the amended policy that's in your packet for second reading, and then an amendment to the amendment, if you will.
Okay. Well, board, let's go ahead. Is there any further discussion at this point? We'll go ahead and get the policies on the floor.
Yeah, I have
And-
some
Okay,
discussion.
Ms. Garris?
I noticed that in the proposed policy, loss of driving privileges and community service as disciplinary action, those were removed. I think if we want to let them know we're serious about this, then we need to hit them where it hurts. And if they can't drive to school, that would be a big deterrent. As well as, you had mentioned law enforcement gives a student a citation. If they're doing that, I would like to see that in the policy as well. That would be a big deterrent.
And to that point, which are both good points, I pause when I think about putting the law enforcement, because they may change, and they may not always issue the ticket, or some law may change. Again, to the pleasure of the board, we can add what you would need to be added, but I did think about that, the procedure of how that works. And since that was a law enforcement rule or mandate and not a school mandated that law enforcement would issue the ticket, my fear is if we put that in the policy, it may say that the school district is mandating that law enforcement write a ticket, and they may not always do that, depending on the circumstance. So that's the law enforcement aspect, the breaking of the law aspect of student behavior. We've always left that to the law enforcement officials.
Okay, well, I guess that would fall under including but not limited to, as Ms. Frida said. So that way they know there's a chance that if it happens, you could get a citation. I had made a lot of notes. Most of all have been covered, but I would like to see this go through the advisory councils and hear what they have to say. So someone mentioned bringing it back in October or so.
And with our policies, we just about always do that. Unfortunately, this mandate came down in June.
Right.
And it takes 2 readings, and we had to have it by August 1st. So we weren't handed any favors, and I don't want to ever rush through the process. But 2 things were against us at summertime, and we had I would have loved to have been able to have groups look at this prior to passing a policy, but we weren't afforded that opportunity.
2 things we can do about that is we have our first student advisory council meeting is in September. And our first parent advisory meeting is in September, or is it October? So we could do both of those prior to the second October meeting.
Oh, that'd be good.
And so we could have some feedback
Okay,
by that
sounds good.
second October.
And probably the bigger question is how much of it, there's a difference between policy and process. And I think the more you can incorporate process into policy, the more streamlined it becomes, especially in situations like this where there is a lot of gray area. So probably, you know, you're kind of hitting on both the same points, that if you incorporate the process, the referral process to SRO or whatever it may be, while we may not control what the SRO may do from a legal perspective, the process stays in place.
That's right.
And then it becomes the discretion of the SRO, which I'm assuming they're going to abide by a very similar process that's a part of policy, if you will.
Part of their law enforcement
Part of their
policy.
policy,
That's
correct.
exactly
So,
Yeah, so to that point, then, one of the consequences could be a referral to law enforcement, referral to SRO, and then whatever comes of that referral is left up to what law enforcement does.
I have a question. Speaking of process, so, and you may have said this and I missed it. So who says we have to have this passed by August 1st?
The law,
The law, whose law?
So the state.
Federal law, state law?
state law, it was, yeah.
State law,
copy.
and what is the penalty if it's not?
Well, I don't know.
We'll have a copy of the law, and it doesn't seem that there's much difference in our policies and the law, if any whatsoever. Do y'all know what exactly we changed to adhere to the law?
We didn't really change the heart of the policy. We used the more consistent language that schools across the state are using by adopting the model policies from the School Boards Association.
So is our current policy that's not amended, that we're not, is it out of compliance with the law?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, I'll pass this down to you, you can look at
No,
it.
it's not.
But, yeah.
yeah,
think-
according to it's a part of the Youth Access to Tobacco Prevention Act of 2006, was amended in April of 2019. And as a part of that, the South Carolina School Board Association revised policies, the ones before you, ADC, GBED, and JICG, to include the additional information required by the statute. So I think it's the additional information as a
Just
part
the
of
new
the
terms,
amended
basically.
2006 Act. And so that's what has to be ratified by 2019, or August 1,
August 1, yeah.
2019.
But that's not to say that we come back in the fall
Correct.
and revise it again.
Right.
This reminds me of our cell phone policies. That's the most touched policy we have in our book. I look at Jeff. We just, I mean, they went especially, I mean, there were times we were modifying it every 3 to 6 months at one point.
We talked about it
'cause we
at least
could not
every
keep up
year.
with technology.
And to clarify, that, you know, the student handbook is printed once a year. Students get it, they acknowledge they get it, and then we hold the students accountable. So again, some of this also,
Well, actually, it's online now, so if changes are made during the year.
Oh, okay.
We can change that.
so we can change it in October
That's correct,
as this
that's correct.
policy. Oh, okay.
And that actually goes to one of Ms. Frieda's points too, that the student handbook is out of sync because this is just a proposal, not
that's right.
it hasn't been passed and then replicated into the handbook yet. It will be eventually. In this.
And it also, again, it touches on policies JKD, and I'm not going to get into a lot of codes, and the JICDA. And while this is 3 separate policies, it also impacts those. So realizing that through this process, I need to look at those policies also. And maybe there's some language that needs to be updated to bring them all in line.
Well, and I appreciate this amendment, the amendment to the amendment. It's actually a lot to ingest, reading it cold, while also talking about this at the same time. So I'm not sure how to, do we?
Well, we
Well,
never
Madam
brought
Chair,
a
we're not
motion.
wanna
meeting,
do?
well, we're not meeting again before August 1st.
And I will say,
What
and
I'm
I'm
thinking, and this is me just thinking out loud, I'm thinking we should go ahead and pass this tonight with the amendment, because the amendment just addresses the nicotine alternatives.
and if I could give you
and
the
to-
synopsis of the changes,
Yeah, and
because
to be a
that policy that I gave
placeholder,
is the same
knowing
as the.
that we could come back in a month or two. when-
Well, and the changes that you'd be reading would be everywhere it said tobacco-free, we changed it to tobacco and nicotine-free. We not only changed it at its title, but within the body of the policy. So there's several places that will read differently than the one that was in your packet.
Well, let me address Dr. Guyton's question. What do we do if a student is prescribed something that's considered, I don't know what the term is, an anti-school substance, I guess. And a student is prescribed something, the medical doctor said the student needs it, they've written up their plan. Although they're violating the policy, they have reason to override the policy, is that correct?
Well, that would be, asking me this tonight, that would be my interpretation of that. If a doctor says this student needs this, particularly if he has a 504 and one of his life functions is being altered because of it, then we would have a conflict, but I think
Well,
we.
I mean, the most obvious example of that is going to be an opioid.
Right.
And so a child has his wisdom teeth taken out, and he's prescribed a Lortab. He can still function. He can go to the nurse and take one under the discretion of the physician. But of course, we have a no drug policy. We have a no opioid, no drug policy. So but it has to be regulated.
Right.
I think is the thing. You know, the kicker there is, you know, you're gonna recognize those things regulated by the FDA, not non-FDA regulated alternative medications, so on and so forth.
So if you were to prescribe a patch, that is regulated by the FDA?
It is regulated by the FDA. It would require, you know, it's otherwise against the law for an 18-year-old to have it without a physician order.
And we would recognize that, right, Mr.
That's right.
Caldwell? Yeah. So I think does that answer your question about that, about the nicotine? Because I don't want to add this language if you feel like you want to leave it out for right now?
It's a tough one. I mean,
It
really is a tough one because, again, it's not just student. It's also teacher, administrator, whoever it may be, because they may not be under a physician order.
And they're
They may
chewing the
be
gum.
chewing nicotine gum as a part of their smoking cessation, and they're not under the care of a physician.
And I asked I asked Mr. Caldwell about that. I said, how do we recognize the gum and the candy? And
I don't know how you would, how it's different than regular gum.
Yeah, I got nothing. I guess it tastes like Wrigley's. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
either.
Spearmint? I don't know.
Okay, board, what do you think we should do? We need to get a policy in place so that we're compliant with August 1st. And also, I think it's important for us to have something in place for school starting.
right.
And I'll be honest, the Juul and the vaping is coming at us like a freight train. And we do need to have something. And then what we can do is put something in place and then massage it as necessary going forward. Because I think it's going to be one of those policies that just keeps coming up and coming up. So until.
I'll bring forth a motion.
Okay, let's let Dr. Guyton bring forth a motion.
So, Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy ADC, tobacco-free school district, as presented in our board packet.
Okay, so we're not going to go with the amendment.
Well, technically, we
let's
haven't
do
had
that.
an amendment because we haven't had
Okay.
a motion yet.
So let's do that. We've got a motion from Dr. Guyton concerning the policy that you went home with at the last meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any discussion or questions? Okay, at this point, now we're going to amend it. So.
That we approve the amendment as presented by Mr. Caldwell to the policy that is on the table.
Okay, policy ADC. Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Green for an amendment to the original policy of ADC. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Dr. Powers. Are there any questions or comments regarding the amendment? Okay, at this time, we'll vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We are now in favor of the amendment. So now we're going to vote on.
Madam Chair, I'll withdraw my original motion,
Okay,
so that should
is that right?
I think
that's
that's
right.
right.
Okay,
That replaces.
so ADC passes, and it's unanimous, with an amendment. Okay, now, Dr. Guyton, do I hear a motion to approve GBED tobacco-free workplace as presented?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy GBED, tobacco-free workplace, as presented in your board packet.
Okay, I have a motion from Dr. Guyton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Dr. Powers. Okay, at this point, we need an amendment.
Madam Chair, I would like to move that we accept the amendment from Mr. Caldwell to this policy that is
Okay.
on the table.
Okay, and that would be policy GBED. Do I have a second for the amendment to policy GBED? Okay, so I have a second from Mr. Anderson. Are there any questions or comments or discussion regarding GBED with an amendment? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries and it is unanimous.
Madam Chair, I withdraw my original motion for policy GBED.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Guyton. Okay, Dr. Guyton, take away the third one.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy JICG, tobacco use by students, as presented in your board packet.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Guyton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. We now have a second. Okay, Ms. Green, you want to do your number again?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the amendment as presented by Mr. Caldwell to the policy JICG.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Green. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oswald. Green Oswald. Okay, board, any questions, comments, or discussion regarding tobacco use by students with the amendment? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of policy JICG as amended, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries and it is unanimous. Dr. Guyton?
Madam Chair, I withdraw my original motion for policy JICG.
Okay, great. Ms. Layton, did you get all that? Okay. Well, I appreciate I just want to say thank you to the board, and I want to say thank you to Mr. Caldwell and his team. I think we will be discussing this often, and it will come up, and Dr. Little, I appreciate you bringing that back before us in October, and let's get with our students, our teachers, and our parents and get their feedback and amend as necessary. Board, we're moving to 10.5, which are student travel requests. Do I hear a motion to approve 8 student travel requests as presented?
Madam Chair, I move the board accept the recommendations from Dr. Talley on the 8 student travel requests.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Dr. Powers. Dr. Talley, any comments regarding those 8 travel requests? Okay. Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Are there any questions or comments, board, regarding the travel request? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries and it is unanimous. The rest of, we do not have any more action items. 11.0 is the superintendent's report, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Little.
You know, normally the July meeting is our fast meeting. I just want to FYI you there. But thank y'all for all that great discussion on vaping, an incredibly important topic. My report's going to be fairly quick tonight. I just wanted to talk and just give the board a quick update. The Council for Higher Education, that committee that met last week, has officially approved our dual enrollment sites at Gilbert High School as well as White Knoll High School. And so we're thrilled about that. Our partnership with USC Sumter has been absolutely critical about the increasing dual enrollment opportunities in our school district. And I just wanted to provide some quick numbers just to show how that has impacted Gilbert High School. Last year, in 18-19, Gilbert High School had 100 dual enrollment requests. And this year, they've had 348 requests. The math I have here, that's a 248% increase. So we're excited about that. And at White Knoll High School, last year they were at 197, and this year they're at 248. And so that number has increased by almost 26%. That's 25.9%. So we're excited about that. And overall, last year, our 18-19, we had 1,480 dual enrollment requests in our school district. And this year we have 1,771, which is an increase of 19.7. Again, I say this all the time when I talk about dual enrollment. Our kids are hungry for these opportunities. You know, one of the things in this school district is we have lots of opportunities, and as a result, kids have to make choices. You know, do I want to go to the center for this, or do I want to go to the center for that? Do I want to become an IB student? Do I want to go do, you know, do I want to go to the Lexington Technology Center? Do I want to go do all these other things? Do I want to take AP classes? Do I want to, you know, whatever it may be? And we have lots of those opportunities. And so for the fact that dual enrollment has blossomed so quickly in our school district really talks about our families and our students and what it means for these opportunities, and they are really interested in that. And so this is a number that is going to continue to grow, and I'm super excited about it. But I would also tell you this. So this is the fascinating thing that at least we found, and I don't have the district numbers on this one, but I know that they're growing according to Mr. Poole, is that at the same time that you see requests for dual enrollment growing and expanding, that we're also seeing at the same time an expansion of advanced placement opportunities. So it's not becoming an either-or situation, it's becoming a both-and situation. And then at the same time, our partnership with Midlands Technical College is also growing. And as we create seamless pathways in like pharmacology and engineering and welding and those types of things as well. So you really see what I think our USC partnership has done is it's really begin to change the conversation about a college-going culture in our communities, regardless of where kids go to school. And so I'll use my child as an example. She loves it when I call her name out in public, especially when she's sitting in the meeting, as she was last week. And one of my favorite things about what she's doing is she's both been an advanced placement student. This coming year, she will be a dual enrollment student, and she will take career and technology education classes. So it's really about a multiple pathway. This is not an either-or experience. It really is students starting to take advantage of all the opportunities that we begin to offer, but dual enrollment is an incredible part of that. So now if all things go well, now she still has to get through next year, and we're hopeful. But I mean, it's, you know, sometimes it can be touch and go for a while, at least for Kaylee. But I will say this, is that by the time she graduates, she'll probably have 15 to 18 credit hours that she'll be able to take with her, and be a CTE completer. And I wish Mr. Myers were still here to hear that, but she'll also probably be a CTE completer. And I always use this as an example. We had a young lady this year that is going to Harvard in the fall, and she also is a CTE completer. So the career technology education is really becoming a more fundamental part of what we do. And that's also something that I always talk about, that these are incredible opportunities for our kids, and more begin to take advantage of it. But dual enrollment has really kind of been the heart of that. But you're seeing it's not just AP students, it's not just dual enrollment students. You're really seeing the rising tide raises all ships. And so we're really excited about that. That's a big thing for our district. So that concludes my report, but I want to turn it over to Mr. Salters, who always has the distinction and pleasure of doing an operations report that's always at the end of the agenda. And so I just wanted to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Dr. Little. I'll be brief as I can be this evening. Get that presentation going, maybe. There we go. So I'm going to start out tonight. We've got a number of projects going on this summer. I want to highlight a few of those for you. Beechwood Middle School, we're excited to
now,
let you know.
that's not a rendering. Is that a rendering?
Oh, no, sir, that's an actual picture.
That's the actual picture. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It looks like a rendering.
Yeah, that is an actual picture. No, it is an actual photo. I'm pleased to announce that our administrative staff moved into the building last week. We'll start moving our teacher supplies, materials, and their stuff from their various school locations into the building next week. We have our scheduled pickup scheduled for August 5th at the facility, and then there's an event day on August 15th as well that we're excited about. So really things are coming along at Beechwood. Another not rendering shot, but could be. It's amazing what you can get with an iPhone these days. So really looking forward to getting some staff and students in the building. We have sign-off from all of the appropriate agencies at this point, and so we're very pleased with that. This is the upper practice field area there. You can see the grass is green and ready for our C-team football activities to begin, and cheerleading activities and so forth that will occur there. This is a look inside the main office area. You can see we have some furniture that has started to move in, and they've taken occupancy of that space. Just a look back from the upstairs walkway to the main secured entryway. The main office would be here on your left. Classroom wings over on the right. Front entrance in this area here. library over here on the left as well. So, science lab, this is probably one of the favorite classrooms that will be in the campus. It's got a nice view out of these windows here. We're excited about that. This is a typical classroom, and some of the furniture offerings that will be in all of our classrooms throughout the district. We have a newer application that we're doing here with a larger whiteboard space that will be available. There actually will be a TV. You can see an outlet there. There'll be a TV hung here for display purposes, and then a TV on this wall here, also for student display and collaboration. Here's a lot of the furniture coming in. This is the cafeteria space and kind of been the storage receiving area for all the furniture that's going to be distributed throughout the building. The gymnasium, and it is configured with a divider partition so that you can run volleyball on one side and basketball practice on the other side. It really, these activities that we have in the fall really consume these spaces, and so we need to have multi-use capabilities. This is the little theater, which is a typical size of our middle schools. Still some work going on in there. They're actually hanging the stage curtain today, and so that's one of the last things to go up in that space. Moving on to Carolina Springs Elementary School, as you recall, we have a number of projects in the bond referendum that we are keeping track of on our building page. This is not very exciting to you maybe, but this is a series of tankless water heaters that we have upfitted in our space here at Carolina Springs. These replaced the traditional storage water heaters that you may have had in your homes. These are much more efficient operation, and so we're excited about being able to do that. Moving on to Centerville, we've got our building pad ready. We're actually putting in underground plumbing. This is some sewer line that's going in under the building, so really excited about that. That may not mean much to you, but it's a really exciting time to see rebar start to come onto a site. That means you're starting to dig footings, and that means the building's going to be coming out of the ground soon. So that's a really good thing, and you can see that rebar being used here, and that forms the structural integrity of the walls that will go up. So making really good progress there. Again, this school opens in August of next year, so you'll see a lot of change over the course of the next few months there. Lexington High School, a number of things going on at Lexington High School. This is a bunch of old HVAC equipment that has been removed from our roofs and is soon to be hauled off. This is the new equipment that is soon to be set in that area. So we're doing this kind of in a phased approach and doing it wing by wing. Much excitement around this upgrade. The parking lot that was literally crumbling.
I think Greg shared he heard more about the parking lot at Lexington High School than any other issue.
Yeah, and so you can see from orientation, Lowe's Foods would be back here in this corner of the shot. So this is kind of the front parking lot area. We're doing this in coordination around the roofing activities, which has been kind of a trick to do that because the roofing requires a lot of lay down. But this is the front parking area. This is the guidance, our counseling advisement side of the building. It has been paved and restriped. Here's a shot of the roof, and that we are re-roofing in phases around the building. And so that's the roofer's about 60% complete at this point. We've had good weather. The heat is starting to impact some of that work, but they start in the middle of the night and knock off before really the heat of the afternoon. So Lexington Technology Center, we have a number of inside renovations that will occur there later, but this is the parking lot where the multipurpose room is here. So that parking lot has been repaved, which was in really dire need of that happening. This is the back road going down to the football stadium and the track area here, so that whole road has been repaved. When we finish the, yes.
Yeah, speed bumps, and also will it have any crosswalks? Because I know that when the students, that was where that student got hit, right?
Yeah, the student actually was hit back here, probably 10 feet back. There's an island, and the student was crossing in that island. There will be speed bumps installed in all the areas where they were. So those are part of the plan, and crosswalks where appropriate. You know, as like, for example, in areas like this where sidewalks lead to the you know, the area. So at the end of the paving project, all of the surface at Lexington High School and the Technology Center will be repaved, and restriped. So that's a.
Mr. Salters,
Yes.
did they pave the driveway going out of those parking lots to US 1?
They have not paved yet the driveway from the canopy connecting the two schools out to Lowe's Foods intersection, but that will be repaved. Everything's going to be repaved.
Okay.
We've got a number of deliveries that are coming and going, and so they've been staging that around those deliveries for the roofing project. There's a lot of laydown that's being used by the roofing area. So when that stuff gets up on the roof and those heavy trucks are finished coming in and out, we'll be able to complete the paving. But everything will be repaved.
Okay, thank you.
And I just hope that the students take the opportunity to paint the rock and not the parking lot. Because there was a lot of activity in that driveway coming in and out of the school to paint that. It'll just break my heart to see that fresh asphalt painted up. But anyway, moving on to Pelion Middle School, the new facility there in Pelion. We have some aerial photos of this activity taken by a drone. So this is the main entrance. This is Highway 178. Our groundbreaking was right in this area right here, if you recall that activity. And so this is the site. Again, to orient you, the groundbreaking occurred up here in the top. We will have main driveway entrance coming in and looping around. The school building pad is in this area. You can see the changes in the dirt colors, and that's related to the building pad being prepared at this point. So really good progress, a better shot of it there. Really good progress occurring. We'll have a number of storm detention fields, if you will, back here, ponds. This site has infiltration because it's a very sandy site. So most of the water that is detained on the site will actually seep down into the soil on our property. So it's very interesting storm detention that you'll see develop as the pictures continue to come in. But really good progress there, getting close on a building pad to get started. Again, we're looking at ideally transitioning this campus not this coming January, but the following January. So a mid-year transition, because the building should be done around that time, and our hope is to go ahead and transition, since there's not a rezoning effort involved. It's just, you know, teachers and students moving from one campus to the other. We would open that facility in January, so that otherwise it's going to really sit unoccupied for 6-8 months, which is not a really good use of that campus. It also allows us to get a jump on the improvements over at the current Pelion Middle School site. Moving on to White Knoll High School. We have done a number of flooring improvements there, replaced some old carpet with tile in some areas. This leads into a workroom area. Removed carpet in some classroom spaces. We found over the years that the tile surfaces are more allergy friendly, and they retain less dust and things like that, so they work a lot better. So we've gone in and replaced carpet with tile. And then in the main center commons area, we have new carpet in the circulation spaces there to replace the very dated carpet.
You just can't get it clean.
Right. So really looks good. The photo doesn't do it justice, but I'm sorry. And then leading down our hallways, we've done the same thing. We've got these. At that campus, we've got tile in certain sections, and then carpet in the middle sections of those hallways. So we've replaced that carpet as well. So it really it really makes that school look fresh and new. We're excited about that. Starting off our Future Ready Classroom Initiative, Lexington Elementary School is one of the first first campuses to get some of this furniture, and this is just a shot of one of the elementary schools. And you can see that new furniture that's going to be going into all of our facilities. So we're excited about getting that underway. It's a huge project to do that all across the district. And then just a reminder, our building plan progress can be tracked at our website at this link. You'll go out there and you'll see every project that's listed, and then you'll see a before picture, and if there's something going on in that project, you'll see an after picture. And I'll be bringing those to you throughout the course of the year as well. But it's a great place to be able to keep up with what's going on with all of the projects across the district. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Any questions or comments, board?
I just want to thank you and the team for that building plan progress, because I came on the board when we were finishing the previous referendum, and I don't think we had that in place. So again, I think that's a great resource for our community to see the work that's happening. I know we're always impressed in these meetings with the work that's happening, so thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Thank you. That's a team effort with our communications department. They do a great job working with us to keep that up and going, so.
Okay, well,
Shout
keep
out
us
to them.
updated, exciting. And I believe we have been invited to the dedication of Beechwood Middle in
Yes.
August. And
I think it's
what
the
day?
15th.
The 15th?
15th, I think it
Yeah.
is.
So, board, I hope everybody's got that on their calendars. I think it's at, it's early, 4 o'clock. And so that's traditionally something that the board always attends, so it's a big day for us, big day for that school and those students, exciting time. So thank you, Mr. Salters. Board 12.0 is for your information only. It is the end of the budget year, and we have started a new budget as of July 1, so we did change over, so.
We skipped 11.2.
Oh, 11.2. I don't have an 11.2.
It's a first reading policy, IJL, media material selection and adoption.
Wow.
Dr. Talley, you want to just
Yes, just very
Speak to that.
quickly, thank you, Board. I am bringing this policy tonight to you for first reading. This policy's not been updated since 2005. I have given you a red line copy with our recommended changes and the current policy. So just appreciate if you look at it over the next month. I'll be bringing it back next month for action. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Talley. Okay, board, I think, am I ready to go to 12.0? Okay. Yeah, I have 12.1. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. So the items for board information are there, and 12.1 are the general fund budget transfers for information only. And 13.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Do I have a second? Who said second?
Tim.
Okay, Mr. Oswald. And all in favor, please stand up, and thank you. Great meeting, really good meeting.
All right. Thank y'all very much.